Uh, One. Yeah, we are live. Hi, Udit. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. How's it going with
Yep,
you, Rahul?
it's going great, man. And thank you so much for coming here because you're running multiple products now. You have Pitchground as the marketplace. The best place for us to get the softwares at the cheapest price. And you're also running communication. And by the way, congrats for getting into the G2 award section again. And
Thank you.
I just think it's gonna keep repeating quarter after quarter. So yeah, really proud of that. So yeah, guys. Udit is someone who definitely needs no introduction. The guy who's known by everyone, literally the king of SaaS in India. Like we have coined him in
Not
the
really a king. Not really a king. I think I'm
in
just
the
one of you guys with a tiny bit of more experience, I would say.
right. But Udit, for the people, like the 5% folks who don't know you, like I would say 0.5, but let's just go for the sake of theatrics 5% people who don't know you. Can you just give us a 2 minute intro?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Udit
Yep.
Goenka. I'm the founder and CEO of the company known as Little SaaS Incorporation. We currently are running two brands at the moment. One is known as Pitchground, which is a SaaS marketplace, and the second one is known as Communication, which is a help desk focused more towards e-commerce companies, where we are trying to automate a lot of e-commerce tasks and a lot of e-commerce automation, especially with regards to the support aspects of the e-commerce. So that's what the two brands that we're running. I started my career when I was 17 as a freelancer. Started as a graphic designer, then started
Wow.
coding myself, taught myself by watching YouTube videos, buying the same books that engineering people would learn from.
Mhm.
Started learning how to code. I think built my first plugin back
Right.
when I was 18 or 19. Sold that, made some great money from it, and then started my first real company, which was known as Power Posting. Flew down to US
Yeah.
when I was 20. I was in US for some very good years. I think that's when a lot of magic happened for me because of the networking
Mhm.
opportunity I had as LA. I was in LA for most of the time, so LA
Right.
was hub is the hub of like connectivity. Basically, you can find
Yeah.
any connection in Los Angeles. So built that, and just about 3 years ago, made an exit from that. Meanwhile, was also working on one of my first SaaS, which was known as GoPVN. Grew it to over $1 million in ARR in less than a year's time, and then sold
Mhm.
that at the same time because the product was very niche. So the expansion was becoming harder and harder and harder because it was a very niche product. That's when I realized that one should never build a niche product unless and until their goal is to like make an exit from. So and then I had a
Yeah.
failure that led to the birth of Pitchground, and the story has been completely different since then. So Pitchground as a
Wow.
platform has just crossed over $4 million in sales, and it's barely 2.5 year old company. So we are just in the next phase of value unlocking. So hopefully by 2022 end or 2023 mid, we should be able to hit about 8 figures, which is like the first dream goal as an entrepreneur. And once we
Right.
achieve that, I think we'll start targeting towards 9 figure, mostly by 2025 2026 end. So that's just a bit about me.
Right. I mean, it's really interesting because even I started out at 16, right? So like I see a lot of like when I see you, I see like hope for myself. So definitely the journey has been great since then. Minus the number of championships that you have won, but that's one of the things that really inspired me to connect with you, learn from you, and take things further. I also remember the first exposure to you, regardless of us being in multiple groups, was your interview with Nathan Latka when you were running GoPVN.
Yeah.
So like I was really amazed to see that can you really scale a company to 70K MRR in just 6 months? That was one of the most craziest thing that I could imagine. And when I heard you, especially an Indian founder, like there are very few Indian founders you'd find on that podcast. And like seeing you and with the confidence you spoke, right? I remember there was this tiny bit instance where Nathan goes that, okay, that's way too good of a result for Facebook ads. And you respond to him that I can show you the screenshots. And that was such a amazing moment, which like such a powerful moment, which really inspired me to connect further with you and learn more from you. So guys, if you want to understand what pressure is, it's giving your intro after such a mammoth intro, right? So but still I'll go ahead. I'm Rahul Rajwanshi. I'm your host. I'm one of the DMP saviors. Full time I work as a product growth associate at a company called Outplay HQ, and of that I am a huge lover of the SaaS industry as a whole. And I don't have a life outside SaaS and no code. That's how I like to put it forward. So, with that being said, with the introductions being done, with the handshakes being made, Odette, let's get into today's topic, Twitter AMA and Twitter growth. So, before
Sure.
we head there, I just want to thank Suman for kind of helping us figure out, okay, that this is something we should definitely get on a live stream and talk about. And a huge shout out to her, guys. Go check her out. And she has been doing amazing job on Clubhouse. And yeah, thanks for recommendation. So, Udit, when we talk about Twitter, there are very few companies who have a very multi-channel approach towards their brand, and one of those brands is PitchGround. Like, you are on TikTok, you are on Instagram, you have done amazing series. I think how many episodes now on Instagram Live? I think above 100, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think it's no, not
It's,
around 100, but I think it's close
yeah.
to around like 70, 75 right now.
Right, yeah. Nihal has been doing an amazing job there. Minank has been just killing it across everything. You have a free course academy and also on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So to begin with, out of everything that you are doing, why also choose Twitter as a platform to be on and choose it as one of your streams to voice out your brand?
That's a brilliant question to begin with. So there are two major reasons. First,
Hmm.
that's where all the SaaS founders hangs out, especially all the early stage founders, because people have started building in public, right? Whether it's
Yeah,
an agency today, whether it's a SaaS company, whether it's a service industry, it doesn't matter. Whether you are a product creator, it honestly doesn't matter.
yeah.
People have started being on Twitter, and I think since the last 2 years, Twitter has really fixed their algorithm. So
Oh
all
yeah,
the garbage content that you used to see on the feed, right? It has
yeah,
been refined to such a point that they have really started implementing AI to really understand the kind of contents that you post, and those are the similar kind of contents, and discovery of new contents and users is something that Twitter starts showing. And that's something that I absolutely love about Twitter, which is where I think pretty much every other social media company lacks today, right? So
yeah.
that was one of the biggest reasons why. Second, it's a lot more free in terms of sharing your opinion,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Without really bothering about engagements. People are obsessed about engagements, but not on Twitter. People honestly don't care about engagements, right? Because you will still get impressions regardless, and your
Hmm.
whatever you're sharing will still be seen by hundreds and thousands of people potentially, right?
True.
Now there are different goals like that you can implement to make a tweet go viral, and a lot of those things. Some are gray hat, some are white hat. It just depends upon what you're comfortable with, which is something that we'll probably talk down the road in the call. So, but yeah, those are the two major reasons. So today, if you're not on Twitter, honestly, you're losing out, I would say. So
True.
if, and also at the same time, if you're talking about omni-channel, then I really think that one of the common mistakes that I often see from people making is posting the same content
Oh
across
yeah.
all the channels, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that you shouldn't do. If you ever look at PitchGround, you will never find the Instagram content on PitchGround
Hmm.
uh, on Twitter, and you will never find Twitter content
Right.
on Instagram, and then you will never find the contents inside Facebook group of PitchGround on
Hmm.
Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere else, right? Because the audience on each of the platforms are very different. So you have to cater to that audience because the age group of the audience is different as well. So similarly, you have to really strategize things if you're going to use. But if you're just going to use a social media tool and just publish all of the contents across the same all the time, then honestly, it's you're not putting in enough effort out there, and you're not really leveraging the platform.
Makes sense, man. I think the whole idea of content repurposing has become really mundane now. So like it's turned from having a place where you can really put out your brand across multiple voices, multiple streams, to something which has become a little spammy, a little like too frequent in nature, and also with a very mundane approach. So that's very true. Has this also impacted your engagement in a positive or a net negative way by any chance? Like,
Yeah,
how has that
definitely,
worked out for
definitely.
you? Hmm.
Definitely, it has, because we have started developing a different sort of a relationship with different people and different audience. So
Right.
just to give you an example, when we do an Instagram live, right,
Right. Yeah.
we do it with only people who are very proactive on Instagram. We do not reach
Right.
out to someone on Twitter and ask them to come on Instagram and then do a live with them, because it defeats the purpose. Because if someone has built a network on Instagram, when you cross promote and collaborate and partner up, right? Because that's the
Mhm.
only real way any company can grow today. Without
Mhm.
partnership, it's impossible. Name any company that have gone without partnership, and like hands down, I cannot think of any single name in ever, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has to work on partnership, and because everyone builds their own network, right? And everyone shares their network accordingly. So this is so very important that you need to pick those things very carefully. So with Instagram, what we usually do is we just go live, and that has helped us massively in terms of building up a great exposure. Because
Mhm.
when a company goes live very frequently, it builds a lot of trust with the fact that if something goes wrong today, the company is there to take care of us. This is, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the customer's perspective, right? If they want to buy
Right.
something, and if they see that, oh my God, they are so ultra active, right? That this post
Yeah.
after post, and then there are real people out there, it builds trust. And that
True.
leads to a good amount of sales coming in. Now on Twitter, vice versa, what we do is we reach out to people who have a lot of followers on Twitter, and we
Mhm.
do our weekly AMS sessions over there. And that helps us to penetrate into the network of people on Twitter, and specifically hanging out on Twitter. So that helps us to get those people following us on Twitter, where we do not want them, and we do not push them to follow us on Instagram because they are not active on Instagram. So why do we do that, right? So
Yeah.
we always keep the audience on their own network. We never try to cross promote. And this is actually good for us because we can also run different sort of offers for different network at that stage without people
Exactly.
really realizing it. So that's very important, and that is one of the key reasons why our growth has been so very good. And lastly, we are not obsessed about followers, right? What we care
Yeah.
about is the follower to buyer ratio. We do not count about the follower ratio, right? What's the point of having 100,000 followers when you get zero sales out of them, right? I would
Exactly.
rather have 10,000 followers and 10,000 sales, right?
Yeah.
Because that will help me to keep on consistently delivering results. So
Yeah.
that's something that people need to always remember. Do not be obsessed about followers. If you're doing a good job, you want your buyers to follow you, not some random bots and random people following you who is never going to buy from you. That's so very important.
Mhm. Uh, so I mean that's definitely true, but there's a lot of how do I put this? There's a lot of controversy to the fact that should every channel be sales oriented, or some channels are just meant for putting out the brand voice out there. So like the way I would like to frame this is that is it an investment that you're looking at when you are trying to be proactive on all these platforms, or is that totally a revenue stream that you are trying to build? How do you
Uh,
balance that out?
no, it's actually both today, because when
Hmm.
this is what happens, right? If we
Yeah.
talk about buyer's journey today,
Hmm.
seven touch points doesn't exist. It's over
Oh
10
yeah.
touch points now, right?
Exactly.
Those days are gone when you talk about seven touch points and you get a sale. Those days are really gone because the buyers today are a lot smarter, right? They
Yeah.
will do a lot more research about you before
Hmm.
making a purchase, regardless of the pricing today, because whether it's $50, $100, $200, that's the
Hmm.
money that they're paying, and they're expecting something in return, right?
Oh yeah.
It can
Hmm.
be a service, it can be a product led service, it doesn't matter. So at that point of stage, you have to be invested across all of these platforms differently in a more unique way today.
Hmm.
And this helps you with both, with branding, with trust factor, because again, like I said, it doesn't matter whether there's engagements or not, right? As long as you're active on these channels, and when people discover you at any point of stage, they
Right.
check on all of these things, and then they make
True.
the decision. And then on top of that, when they see that the founder is ultra active as well, you will be surprised that I get over 100 messages from different people across all the channels. I'm talking about my email, I'm talking about
Yeah.
Instagram DMs, I'm talking about Twitter DMs, I'm talking about LinkedIn, and then I'm talking about Facebook. If I combine all of them, I usually get around 100 new messages from different people every day. It can be for small help, it can be for small suggestion, it can be
Hmm.
for some young kids who are like 16. They reach out to me for some mentorship, or they just want to get on a call with me asking for some advice or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I get them, I get on a call with all of those kids out there, because I didn't have that opportunity during my time. But if I can influence someone today to make a better career path, right, then I'll definitely like do my level best to just spend 15 minutes on a call with them, which doesn't
Yeah.
like which will not make a huge difference for me, but it can make a huge difference for someone else, right? So those are the
Yeah.
things that make such a huge difference, because when you also stay nice with people and share and provide value, it has a lot more long-term effect that people don't realize. Like 6 months
True.
down the road, 12 months down the road, 1 year down the road, right? That one person can make a big influence for you down the road. So all of these things are so very important in terms of execution.
I mean, and I can vouch for this. I can literally vouch for this because 4 years back, I was that 16-year-old which reached out to you, trying to get to know you better and trying to learn from you. And it was not just online; we also met offline once, right, in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And that was just me, you, and Yash, like from Kleinjoy, like just three of us. And it was huge, like coming from a CEO who's running a multi-million-dollar company. It's huge that someone would go to such lengths just to help someone out, and someone you don't really expect something in return from. So that's a huge thing to do, definitely. So I think we've really covered the base very well. Why Twitter and why multi-channel and why the whole game of impression versus conversions. Uh, Now I'm convinced as a brand owner, as a SaaS owner, as a personal brand that I want to be on Twitter now. What's the first steps towards the homeworks that I need to do before I proactively start working on my content?
So the first thing you need to do is ensure that your profile is very optimized, because your
Hmm.
profile on your social media are usually your landing pages, right?
Yeah.
And whenever someone wants to follow you, they would first check
Mhm.
on your profile, see the kind of picture that you have, the kind of picture you have of yourself. Make sure that your pictures are like very professionally. It's like great headshot. It's professionally done, and all of those things. Just don't take like a random picture on a beach and put it up on your Twitter, right? Doesn't really work out unless and until you are that sort of a freelancer that is pushing like nomad, like being a nomad,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're promoting that lifestyle culture. If you're not
Exactly.
doing that, then make sure you don't do that. So
Mhm.
that's those are the things very important when you're optimizing your profile. Again, the next very important thing is your pinned tweet.
Right.
You can have one pinned tweet. Make sure it's rock solid, like it conveys your story. So if you guys check out my pinned tweet, you will see that
Hmm.
I still have the video of our second year anniversary last year that we celebrated. I've
Yeah.
pinned that, and that has got over, I think, 7,700 plus views as of
Right.
now, and those are all
Right.
organic views, by the way.
Yeah.
So imagine that has led so many founders contacting me and DM, and I've launched on PitchGround, or we have spoken with, or we have consulted them with. So that sort of an opportunity is brilliant. So make sure your pin tweet is not a sales pitch; it's a
Correct.
story.
Yeah.
That's very important. You need to convey your story to them, right? So that's
Yeah.
something that's very important. So make sure that you optimize on that. If you haven't, just grab your camera, record your story. It takes 2 minutes, right? Edit a bit
Mhm.
and put it up. That's it. It doesn't have to be something crazy out of the box and you have to like design it and plan it crazy. No, it can be something very simple. You can always redo it and you can have a new pin tweet, right? But make
Right.
sure that you start with something right away that is completely story driven, because people can sell to people only if they can connect you via story,
Very true.
right? Other than that, it's very hard for startups to grow. Yeah, once you are like a multi-billionaire company, then story doesn't really play too much of a picture at that point of stage, because you have so
Yeah.
much money to just push your brand everywhere that your brand itself comes out and it becomes a lot more easier to sell, right? But for startups who are low on cash, stories are everything, and Twitter is all about stories.
Very true. And it's so strange that whenever we talk about profile optimization, we never talk about the pin tweet. But I mean, that's the most crucial part of your profile at the
Yep.
end of the day, right? Like, I mean, everything works out well, but the first piece of content that people see is the pin tweet, right? And
Yep.
in the whole conversation of profile optimization, I've never seen anyone talk about the pin tweet at the first place. So it's very good that you put that out first. Yeah, and what are your thoughts on putting out the bio? Like that is something I've seen a lot of controversies around. Like some people like to have comparatively longer bios. Some people want to have just single line bios. Julian Shapiro says that like the bigger the bio, the shorter like your achievements. So like, what are your thoughts on that? Uh,
So with me, I always keep my bio very simple, right? So for me,
mhm.
if you look my Twitter, I simply say what I talk about. That's it,
Yeah.
right? And then
Mhm.
I let them know that, look, I'm the founder of this and this company. I don't want so I don't I haven't optimized my bio like I have done for Instagram. I have
Yeah.
done that for Twitter, because Twitter has got certain restrictions in terms of characters. So
Right.
with Twitter, it is more about how straightforward you are and how honest you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you try to be very salesy again on Twitter, it's not going to work out.
Exactly.
People on Twitter are 10x smarter than any other platform.
Very true. Yeah.
Right, because all the tech people, especially tech people, hang out on Twitter. They're very smart people, right? You cannot fool them, right? Selling on Twitter is not easy. If you can crack it, you can close bigger deals than on LinkedIn, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
make sure that you don't have too much fuss on your bio. Keep it very simple, what you're talking about, who you are, and what you do. That's it, right? Let rest. If people like that, people will go through many of your tweets, right? And then they will follow you. But again, don't be obsessed about followers, because people will come and buy from you without even following you on Twitter.
Yeah, very true. I think another very important thing to notice over here is that it's a lot to do with your goals and how you set up your goals, right? So when you start your activity, your footprint on any social media platforms, setting up your goals is very necessary. Like, what do you want to achieve out of this? Otherwise, it's just an endless chase, right?
Right.
If every single effort in your, marketing or in your social media does not circle back to a business metric, it's just baseless chase of content creation, right?
Right.
So for an example, if you're trying to increase your landing page traffic, one of the most important metric for you would be your CTR on your Twitter posts, or throughout your Twitter overall, right?
Right.
So how do you set up effective goals, and what do you think should be like the motivations and the planning that goes into setting up goals which you can track, measure, and they're also effective in nature?
Great question. I think one can start using the default analytics of Twitter to understand things better. And
Mhm.
right inside that, you will also see that Twitter shows you all your impressions, stats, best tweets, and all of these data points. So you can
Mhm.
always definitely check on that. Their analytics is not real time. I think it's delayed by 24 hours, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah,
So, but that's completely okay, because again, real time analytics is something that's not really required on Twitter. So that's one thing. So the first thing that you need to do and you need to analyze is your impressions of your tweet, and
yeah,
and the number of mentions you get, because that's something is very critical. Because the way the algorithm for Twitter works is that when people start mentioning you,
yeah.
um, more and more people start seeing your profile at that point of stage. Your
Correct. Yeah.
tweets will automatically start showing more in other people's feed, and that is something very crucial to know about Twitter, is
Mhm.
is having that goal. Second thing about Twitter is 100% value. If you are just posting a blog post over there with an automation, trust me, you will never be able to grow your Twitter.
Yeah.
Not just that, you will never be able to convert, right? So post dedicated threads, plan out a thread a week. That's good enough, and you never know which thread will go viral. So, and
True.
again, stick with your expertise, right? Be yourself. That's very important. So, for example, I love finance and I love SaaS, right?
Yeah.
I just talk about those. That's it. Those are two of my passions. Where SaaS is first, finance is second, right? That's what I talk about, right? Whatever I've done, my mistakes, my achievements, whatever it is, I turn them into a story, a step-by-step instructions, what needs to be done. How can someone avoid that? When you club that into a great thread, you start seeing some great traction that can lead to some great opportunity for you down the road
Yeah.
as a sales.
Yeah, definitely, very true. So like the crux of the beauty of Twitter, like one thing which Geet mentioned right now in the chat is that you have to be concise and precise, and that's what attract these tech people to Twitter. I think that's a huge part of it, definitely. Another thing that I feel like adds a lot to the factor to the equation is the discoverability on Twitter itself, right?
Correct.
Like you mentioned yourself, like they worked a lot on their, for example, the recommendations I get now for profiles to follow are specifically of bootstrap founders with
Correct.
2,000 followers who are building SaaS companies and are building in public. It's that precise. Like they have nailed
Correct.
it down to
Absolutely.
that single precision. And
Agree.
if you curate your feed in the right way, I think it's a long way to go from there.
No,
So
100%, 100%. That makes a huge difference.
yeah, yeah. And even the search features as a whole, right? Two platforms that I love is Discord. They have amazing search functionality, and the second one is Twitter. Their advanced search is really, really well to just have a look at what's going on. So one of those factors to that discovery, layer of it is also hashtags, right? So like when we talk about hashtags, it's either generic ones which are already out there, or your own company specific branded hashtags, which I see PitchGround does it very wonderfully. Kudos to Minank, I guess, for that, if I'm right. So how do you plan out both of these things, like, going ahead with the hashtag which are general, and then also promoting your own branded hashtag?
So first of all, with regards to my account, I barely use hashtags because what I've
Yeah,
seen is that hashtags on Twitter doesn't really make too much of a sense, because even if you're not using hashtag, Twitter is smart enough to see if you are using that even in your tweet. They consider that when you're searching
yeah,
for those content, others the tweets are being searched and not just your hashtag, right? So just make sure that you include, and also never overdo hashtags, because look, it's not Instagram, right? It takes
yeah.
up, you only get, firstly you only get like 280 characters to begin with, right? So if you
Right,
fill
right.
it up with like junky and too much hashtags, your tweet itself doesn't look good, right? So
True.
what I've seen is that most successful people on Twitter, they barely even use hashtags, honestly. So personally, I avoid using them. Secondly, with regards to brand, definitely we do for just PG chat. That's it. We don't use hashtag specifically for anything else on PageGround, because it just makes it a lot more easy for people to discover the
Yeah,
contents for only PG chat. That's it. Other than that, we do not use
yeah.
the hashtag for anything else in general, because again, Twitter is smart enough to identify and start making those recommendations for your profile.
Yeah, that's kind of how I also, when I have to check PG charts, that's what I do. Like I cannot always check it out real time, so I just go out sometimes, and since I know the brand, I just search for PG chart and I go and look like 2-3 months of like PG chart at once itself. So I mean, yeah, that's a fantastic way of doing it. Uh, with the brand profiles itself, right? I'm seeing like a lot of people now trying out a lot of different stuff. Like for example, with the username itself, they would, rather than just having pitch ground, like you guys also have pitch ground HQ, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that is because it
yeah.
wasn't available. PageGround itself wasn't
Oh,
available
okay, okay, okay.
in couple
Right,
of social
right,
media.
right.
That's why we went ahead with HQ. So
Yeah, but this is
on
now like kind of
Instagram,
a
it was
trend.
available. Sorry.
Yeah, this is now kind of a trend as well, like Notion HQ, Buffer HQ. Like this is becoming sort of a trend of branding your usernames this way across
Yes,
multiple SaaS
because
companies that I've seen.
yeah, because the username itself are not available, right? So
Right.
companies
Yeah.
either end up using like get in the beginning or HQ
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end,
And
and
yeah.
that has become very normal now, because again, like there is no way you can acquire the other username unless and until you get the trademark and everything before they have registered. So there's like
Exactly.
all of those challenges basically.
Exactly. So coming to the content itself, right? It's so the balance needs to be very well across, especially when you are having a multi-channel approach. So how do you approach a content calendar? Like one of the most common strategies that I see out there is the 1/3 rule, where you like post 1/3 of your company promotion, 1/3 of your stories, and 1/3 of your like insights and valuable tips and expertise, right? So how does your content calendar look like, and how do you plan out the entire structure around your content calendar itself?
Yeah, so the very first thing that I've seen that works great on Twitter are quotes. It just
Oh yeah.
works brilliantly for some reason, and that doesn't work that well on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn in general, but on Twitter it works brilliantly. So what I
Mhm.
have done is I've automated the process. Like being a growth marketer, I cannot sit down and type the codes every single day, right? So
Yeah,
what I do
yeah,
is I use a software known as IFT. IFT
yeah.
has
Hmm.
got an card available where it automatically generates good, positive, energetic sort of quotes every day and publishes
Yeah,
it on your account. So what happens with that is you get something going for yourself in the account, right?
yeah.
And usually what happens with quote on Twitter is that people like it because it's very quick, right? People don't spend too much time on reading stuffs on Twitter, right? So what
Mhm.
they do is they
True.
scroll a lot faster. So they see something, they like it, they move on, right? They see something they like, they move on. That's something that I've noticed on Twitter. Even myself as a user, right? I don't
Yeah.
generally sit down and watch something and read something, read all the engagements. I do not do that. I usually move on very quickly. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing that you can do is do the course, because most people usually will like those quotes, and when they do that, their network will see that tweet. So that's something
True.
that you need to understand about Twitter. So just use if it will hardly cost you like I think $2 per month
Yeah.
for the pro top plan. So it's like
Very cheap.
literally like
Yeah.
it's free basically at this point of stage, right? Use
True.
that, automate it, forget it. Like just set it up once and forget it. That's the first thing that you need to do.
Makes sense.
Second thing is with regards to making sure that you are constantly putting out good quality threads. At least once a week you put out good
Hmm.
quality thread. That's very essential, and make sure that it contains value and zero promotion in those threads, because if people see there are like any sort of promotions, people will generally skip on it. So
Yeah.
try doing that. That's again very important. Third thing that you can start putting up this is like videos. Videos generally do pretty decent, especially if it's good video, so it will do very
Hmm.
well. So since Twitter Space has just come out, so I'm now slowly starting to experiment with Twitter Spaces as well in terms of live content, because I'm not a
Right.
huge Clubhouse fan, and plus managing so many
Same.
platforms is a
Very tough.
mess. And again, people on Twitter are a lot more smarter in general
Yeah.
that I've
Yeah.
seen. Right, on Clubhouse, it is most about pitching, selling, too much selling. That I've noticed with some of the sessions I've joined, that's
Yeah.
not what Twitter is. Like Twitter, people talk of value, right? People purely talk value, and after that, you will see sales coming automatically. You don't even need to pitch on Twitter. That's the
Exactly.
beauty of
Exactly.
Twitter. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been experimenting with at the moment lately. But overall, I feel like it's a great opportunity with Twitter Spaces right now, because if you are going to conduct a lot of Twitter Spaces, I feel Twitter is pushing organic things even harder right now. So they
Yeah.
will be pushing your spaces a lot more, because now there is a competition going on between Clubhouse and them, and soon Spotify has just joined in, and now Facebook is soon joining this competition. Right? That means creators have good opportunity for the next 1 year to really utilize all of these platforms, especially Twitter, and then gain a good user base who will start knowing about you. So your discovery would be a lot more easier, especially with each platform. And again, Twitter has always been very good with organic, so they will be pushing things a lot more harder for you at that stage.
Makes sense, man. One of the best things that I've noticed is that your overall opportunities, like in terms of what you can do with Twitter, is really vast. So, for example, the goals of some of the people who are building in public is not at all to just like get followers or something. Their entire goal is to just connect with fellow people who are building in public, and like
Correct.
share insights with them. And some folks, like especially solo creators and solopreneurs, there's an entire Gumroad economy which is coming out of Twitter itself, because Gumroad's own discovery is not that big yet, right? And there's a lot long to go for Gumroad to get at a point where you can organically discover a lot of things and go and purchase, right? It's not like Amazon where you
Mhm.
go out to buy something. But Twitter is something which is kind of like where the major traffic is coming from. And me as a creator, if I have something good to give out, let's say something as basic as a Notion template, right? Something as basic as that. Twitter is acting as a channel to help you get there. So that's why the varieties, the opportunities are endless. You can do a lot of stuff throughout the period itself. But one thing to understand, and I think you know this better than anyone, that getting viral is not a strategy. I mean, that's luck. That's like majorly luck. You just do something and then you expect to get viral is not a proper marketing strategy, right? So when you're growing a account from scratch, uh, do you use something like the Twitter lists, like the feature where you can list certain profiles into one particular category and then make your own organized feed, or polls in a way to engage more conversations and more engagement on your profile itself? So how do you approach these two features of Twitter?
So if I remember correctly, I think I got my first few hundred followers back in. I recently, like I said, I recently like rejoined the entire Twitter trend about 6 months ago. Prior to that, like Twitter was absolutely crap, basically, because of the way
Yeah.
they were doing their content. So what I did initially and very recently is I've started implementing a lot of automation. So in last I think 6 months itself, I've almost doubled my follower list, and I have applied a bit of
Mhm.
gray hat as well. So the first thing that I did was
Yeah.
I started removing the people who are not following me and junk users and all of those followers that I followed
Yeah.
back when I was a teenager, right back in 2008, 9.
Yeah.
When I would say, hey, let's just follow everyone, right? Let's just follow everyone. So that's the first thing that I've started doing. So I was following about like 7,000 people, and now I've automated that process a few weeks back, where every day
Mhm.
I'm unfollowing 200 people who are not following me and who are not in my industry. So I'm doing a cleaning up
Right.
process first. This is the same thing that I did with my LinkedIn as well. I went from almost 18,000 followers and connections on my LinkedIn to 3,000. I removed all my friends. because they are never
Mm-hmm.
going to buy from me, and they are not
Yeah.
interested in knowing about much about the things that are going. I removed all
Yeah.
my family members, everything from LinkedIn. That's not the place where I want to connect with them. All my cousins, right? Everyone, I removed them. Then I started removing the unwanted connections, right? So, for example, people who are in the manufacturing industry, right?
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
people that I connected with back in 2008. I would literally connect with everyone, right? So that was the first thing that I started doing with Twitter. I started cleaning up my account, right? Because 8,000 unfollow people, my feed is with junk at that stage. Now that I've lowered it down to about like 4,300 or ish something, now my feed has started getting a lot more refined. And in
Yeah.
next 1 month or so, because it's automated, you cannot do a lot of unfollow either, because it can trigger. Because again, and these are the things that you cannot do manually either. There's just a lot of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing that I'm doing right now is I've automated that process of unfollowing people. And once that is done, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start extracting profiles. This is something I'm just sharing the strategy that I'm going to be using because I know this works very well. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the list of profiles using different active list on Twitter, who are
Yeah.
very, very, very
Exactly.
ultra active, right? Once
Exactly.
I extract those lists, I'll have a list of 1 to 2,000 active people on Twitter, and then I'll start following those. Again, I'll put in the automation into place, and I'll start following those users at that point of stage, so that those users can then look into who this person is, and that's when more opportunities would come in. Your bio, your first pin tweet, and all those things would come in because you're always curious. Hey, why this person is following me? And I'll also make sure that these people who I'm following are like early stage founders and generally has about like 1 to 2,000 followers. That's it, right? Not more than that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
anyone who is higher than that, they don't really care, right? They literally don't bother.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. I
but
mean,
the
if you
ones who are like, the strategy is to connect with micro influencers, right? For me, what I say is a
right.
micro influencer is something whose entire network is like 1,000 people, right? But if you look into
Correct.
reality, 1,000 people can fill up a hall, right? That's
Oh
how
yeah,
powerful
man.
thousand
Yeah.
people can be. So now, if you connect with just 100 such 1,000 people micro influencers, imagine you have now had the potential of reach of 100,000 people. That's the
Very
power
true.
of
Very
micro
true.
influencers. And
Yeah.
also, the same time, the partnerships opportunities with micro influencers are a lot higher, lot easier, and they would never say no. Never, ever.
Exactly.
Right? That's something that we've also
Exactly.
observed. We do such a heavy outreaching for interviews, for Twitter, that's something that we have realized, that someone who's a micro influencer, they jump on board right away. But someone who's got like a lot of followers, basically,
Yeah.
they tend to do a lot more drama. Nah, I don't
Exactly.
have time and bullshit. They have all the time in the world, right? It's
I
just a
know.
way of like delegating and delaying things, right? So
True.
that's the situation. So start connecting with these micro influencers, because that's when you will actually get business opportunities for you at the same time, and not with
Mhm.
major influencers who will actually just want to use you. So that's something that I'm already planning, and that's something that we have effectively implemented in Instagram, and has been
Mhm.
working out brilliantly for us. Because again, with PitchGround, our target audience has always been like creators, right? Our target audience has always been individual users, small business owners, one person army, a business army who's trying to run his entire business, and now is trying to implement softwares, right? Because that's the only way they can run solo still, right? So those
Right.
are the kind of users that we usually connect with, and that is perfect for us, and that has like in general helped us get a huge amount of sales, and as overall brand value, our branding proposition, and our overall reach over the last 6 months has grown drastically.
True, man. I think a very good summarized format of what you just said is something that I was talking to this particular tool's owner. It's called Zillapo. It's a indie hacker product, and it's basically helps you to schedule threads and helps you to run flash sales on Gumroad automatically on Twitter. It automates all the process for you. So he shared a really good insight, and it's exactly the summarized format of what you said. Is that once you're done with your homework, which is to optimize your profile, put out that pin tweet and everything, the first step is to make a list of micro influencers and decently good key influencers, the bigger accounts in your niche area, in your market, right? So now by big influencers, even I don't mean like 1 million. What they are trying to say is like 80K, 100K, in that range itself. And then add all of them in a list and make that private and give it whatever you want to name it. Now this becomes your private feed. This is where you live. This is where you do most of your Twitter. Now what you have to do is on these tweets of these key influencers, every day you have to comment 10 to 20 times. You have to go out, engage with them, interact with them, and then just do this consistently for 3 to 6 months, on a very rapid basis. Now once you have done this, and definitely like the comment have to add value so that you can stand out, that goes without saying. But once you have done this, one of the most important factors from all of this is to cut off the influencers who are ignoring you. So like for example, if there's one certain influencer I'm going to and replying to his tweets, asking questions or adding more value, and if this I'm not getting any replies to, the goal is to cut that off from the list and then add new people instead. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
This is something that people need to be very brutal with and just
yeah,
be selfish over here, right? Because if you're not getting benefited from them and they're just trying to use you, then you need to cut
yeah,
them off. It's as simple as that, right?
exactly.
If you're not getting a reply, even if you're following them and if you're sending them a DM just for small help, right? Small suggestions. And if they're not replying you, what's the point, right? Because you want to connect and you
True.
want to follow someone who can actually
Yeah.
be there. And that's the whole point, right? If you just want to follow someone for the sake of following, then honestly it's not
It's
worth
not
it.
gonna
And
work out.
you're just helping them with growing their own account rather than growing your
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean
something
that's
that
the goal. Yeah, that's the goal, right? It's to like leverage people who have larger followings to build your own and maximize your visibility in a way where it's like far higher. And
right.
also in the meanwhile, also establish yourself as an upcoming influencer in your own niche, in your own space. But if that's not happening, if you're not getting like even a like on your replies, then I don't think it's worth engaging with that account. I think that same energy can be put on to someone else, and you can add someone else in that place and start engaging with their content. Because I noticed this, I replied to tweet one of the tweets and I got 18 likes on that, and that converted to 12 followers. And that happened because the guy who tweeted it in the first place had 50K following and he liked the tweet first. So it's like a very good chain effect that takes place once you engage with people in this way. But yeah, definitely that's something which people should try out. I think we have 20 minutes left. I just want to, before I jump into Q&A, I want to give 5 minutes for paid ads as well. So have you tried out paid ads on Twitter yet? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I did. It works. It works. It works very differently and it works amazing. It's just that the
Okay.
strategies and the way you need to do things is very different.
I've heard that, so I've not tried Twitter ads myself, but I've heard that the approach is more cost per action led rather than like, the other formats of other metrics which you can kind of like take forward and work with. So is
Don't
that
try
true? Like,
don't try to don't try to push people to buy on Twitter. That's all I'll say. Your
Mhm.
ads needs to be designed in a way where you're not asking people to buy something. Because like I said, with people on
Yeah.
Twitter, it's very different. It takes time for them to trust you. It takes time
Yeah.
for you to win their trust. And once you do
Hmm.
that, they'll start spending crazily with you, right? But that takes time. So the ad strategy has to be very unique. It has to be very different, and it has to be a
Hmm.
completely different approach versus what you see on like Facebook, which is a direct conversion ads, or with Google, which is a direct conversion platform, or with YouTube. Twitter is very different, and that's the reason why like Twitter, like so many people haven't been able to crack Twitter ads, and that's why you don't see
Hmm.
anyone talking about, because people
Right.
generally they don't want to spend the time if they don't get the conversions right away, right? With
Right.
Twitter, it's
Hmm.
completely different, and it has helped me connect with some insane, especially when I ran the ads. It helped me
Yeah.
connect with some crazy amount of people, like some very, very good people. So, like I said, for me, I don't care about followers. What I care about is whether my efforts is helping the business grow. That's all I care
Correct.
about. I care about the end conversions in the end, right? The end conversions
Hmm.
that are happening. That's all that matters. Versus more people, most people are obsessed about followers, right? And you wouldn't
Sure.
believe that most of the time, 50% of them are using bots and just adding followers,
Yeah.
right?
Very true. Very true.
That is something that people also do, and then later on realize that they have screwed up their entire analytics of their account.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people need to start realizing these things.
So one of the ways one of my friends utilized like Twitter ads was, instead of promoting his dev tool, he started a newsletter on engineering leadership, because that's like a comparatively lesser noisy space, and he promoted that newsletter using ads. and then people signed up for the newsletter and then eventually converted into paid subscribers for the product itself.
100%.
So like approach was
100%.
very different than typically used with Facebook. Yeah,
Value
exactly. So
driven, that's what I just told you, like value driven. If you are focusing on value driven approach, then honestly
mhm.
your growth is bound to happen. So you just need to
Yeah,
focus on 100% value, and trust me, that will become one of the best channels for you. There are some incredible people on Twitter, and they're very smart, like very smart, right? If you can collaborate with them, I think the growth opportunity would be insane for you, because especially that also leads to discovery of new platforms, new
correct. Yeah.
users. That's something that
Mhm.
happens on Twitter more often
Mhm.
than any other platform.
Right. So coming up to the end of this, like the two things that I want to touch on. So first thing is competitor research. How closely do you like keep an eye on your competitors, and what's your strategy to that? Even with the research phase, like Hiten Shah kind of put this out back in the day when he was building Use FYI, that he posted this poll or something on Twitter, which was what document tool do you use right now, and what's your NPS rating on that document tool, and they figured out that every tool, even the Google Docs or even something as you just Confluence. So Confluence has minus 35 of NPS score, and Google Docs has around 70. So they knew that okay, there's some space in left here to kind of come and do something better and help people do some good work. And the entire product was a result of a Twitter poll, which kind of went from there. So what's your approach on using Twitter for these competitor research, market research itself? And have you tried something of that sort yourself?
Oh yeah, we do it all the time. So for example, at times I just randomly put out tweets. Tell me your favorite SaaS. Right? People
Yeah.
start putting up their favorite SaaS. This is a great way for us to know what kind of SaaS is trending up right now. What are people looking to buy? Right? So
Yeah.
that gives us a good opportunity to understand where the market is really heading. What
Right.
people are looking to buy, right? So we run,
Yeah.
I especially run such tweets all the time in my personal account. It
Mhm.
doesn't work out great on brand accounts, but it works out
Mhm.
great on personal accounts. So you also have to kind of like manage your contents accordingly. That
Mhm.
what you need to do with your brand account has to be a little different than what you are
Yeah.
doing with your personal account, right? Because
Very
when
true.
you're connecting with a brand, you're just connecting with a company. When you're connecting with an individual, you're actually connecting on a much more deeper level with that individual. So that's something that you always have to remember whenever you're pulling up those content. So definitely we do those tweet researches and all the time. Sometimes we ask people to share their contents. We find some great value in those contents, right? So it's a great way for building relationships as well. And that's something that also we have done for a lot of like SEO backlinks as well, right?
Yeah.
Where people
Yeah.
people drop in their contents a lot, and we just reach out to them and ask them, hey, do you want to like do a guest post cross exchange? They say yes. So instead of like
Exactly.
outreaching to all of them one by one, right? We have all everything under one roof, under one Twitter. Then we just do all the exchanges on DMs. This is a smart way
Mhm.
of handling things basically, rather than doing things
Right.
manually.
Yeah. So this was really great. I think people are loving it so far. We've got some really good comments. I just want to end it on a note of something related to communication and the help desk industry in general, right? So I think if we talk about any major help desk player in the market today, like Freshworks or even Zoho to a great extent, the whole origination of that idea kind of came from social listening being out there and no one trying to capitalize on that. But today in this era, Twitter has become that place where companies it's kind of a default place to reach out to brands, right? Like if you want a brand to reply to you, you just go to Twitter and you post out your problems, your suggestions, your love, you share it there, and then the brand can see. So I think that's also a big part of the industry in which communication lies, the whole category. And one thing which you might have also seen is this trend of landing pages where people will have this hall of fame section where they would post out every single tweet which is talking about their own brand itself, right? A lot of people are doing this now. So one of the tools which helps does this is called shoutout.so. It's a great tool as well. You can check it out. I've posted it in the chats, and this is becoming another strategy to kind of utilize to instill trust, social trust basically, uh, out in the people. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, like the entire social listening aspect of it, and how do you respond negative hate or like some complaints against your own brand, let's say a bug report or something on Twitter?
So firstly, what we have seen is that since we have not used Twitter at the very beginning of the company,
Hmm.
people don't generally kind of like reach out to us on Twitter for any sort of complaints or
Right.
anything in general.
Mm.
And the kind of audience that we have built up on Twitter is a very fresh kind of an audience, right? It's a very different kind of an audience. So that's something
Right.
that we have. Secondly, what I feel is that it's never a good idea, if you ask me, that a customer reaching out for customer support on Twitter. That's never a good
Yeah, it's
idea.
never good. True.
The problem with that is it emphasizes the negative side of the company a lot more than the positive side, because people generally won't post positive stuff, but the moment there is something negative, right, people will immediately jump on the gun, right? That's something that is not good. So I wouldn't recommend that. And the way we have trained our users since day one is send us an email. Need support, send us an email. We have a live chat, contact us over there. We have 1 to 3 days policy that we reach out to them, and we let them know via automated messages that, hey, we'll be reaching out to you in 1 to 3 days. And that's something that we have set up right from the very beginning. And anyone reaching out to us usually either like will contact us on Facebook but directly on DMs, Twitter but directly on DMs, and not
Mm.
via public. And with some of the people going public, we generally let them know, look, if it is past the support time, then post it. It makes sense, right? But
Yeah,
if you just
exactly.
are expecting, then that's not right at that point
Yeah,
stage, right? If with regards to hate, I think that's bound to happen, right? Any
yeah,
startup that is growing, that is catching people's attention, there is going to be some people out there that is going to spread negativity, and that's something that I think I've dealt with pretty much my whole life, right? Especially
yeah.
with PitchGround, because it has got a lot of attention from a lot of people. So I've received a lot of hate messages. I've received a lot of them, and at the same time, I've received a lot of like racial abuses from a certain amount of people as well. Right? I've received threats, live threats, right? So I've received those as well, just for a piece of software, which is really
Yeah,
surprising to me, right? So all
it
those
is.
things
Yeah,
is there, but again, you got to let go of it. You got to not react to it, and you just got to keep moving on and keep providing value, because there is always, this is something that I always believe in, is that you will always have more number of people supporting you than the number of people hating you, right? Just keep
makes
focusing
sense.
on providing value to your users. That's it, and they will spread the more lot more. And with regards to hate, even that is good, because it spreads at 10x more pace. That means your discovery is 10x more.
Yeah,
Remember that
yeah,
getting the first touch point is so hard today into the market, especially penetrating very, very deep. So I'll give you a nice example, a funny example of what happened. I think yesterday. So we just launched our discounting system at PitchGround. We sent out an
yeah,
email to everyone, right? So there was this one user who went into one of the hate network group and posted our discounting email in that particular group, which is a competitors, small competitors group, right? Asking,
yeah.
hey, what are your thoughts on it, right? Because again, whenever it comes to emails, you have to use very catchy
Right.
lines, right, to make people
Yeah.
open. So
Mm.
he tried to portray it in a negative way. And what apparently happened was people were like, oh my God, discounting system is live on PitchGround. There was a huge spike of sales that happened, because people don't care. People like such people who are spreading hate, they don't realize that if any user needs something for their business growth, they will buy. It's as simple as,
True.
it doesn't matter whether it's X platform, whether it's Y platform, whether it's Z platform. It doesn't matter. As long as it helps them grow their business, people will buy that, right? If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. If they don't, then honestly, that's not the kind of user anyone wants, right?
True.
So that happened, and it spiked crazily. Our sales went up because people got the coupon code. Our distribution happened for free. That's the power of, sometimes this is what hate can do. It can lead to more sales, it can lead to discoveries, it can lead to some very in-depth network touch point that, and it's not possible to do it by ads, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that you have to realize, how you can really channelize those hate into
Very
positivity
true.
and then convert that into sales, because ultimately that's what matters. And that's something that we have successfully been able to drive continuously all the time, to a point where even if someone is talking negative now, it doesn't matter to them, because people know that
Very true.
PitchGround have been around for so long now. There are hundreds of company coming on PitchGround, and then it's constantly growing. This hate is just a way for them, of in the form of flattery, or a form of jealousy, right? So
True.
that's something that you have to do, and that is only possible when you keep delivering value to your users. That's
Very
all
true,
you
man.
need to focus on as a company, and as long as you're doing that, trust me, nothing else will matter, and you will always grow.
I think the most polarized example of this exact situation is Nathan Latka. Like how he has branded himself as the most sued podcaster, and he's used all the hate to, like, in his own favor itself. I think there was one interview of him with Patrick Campbell from Profitwell, where he talked about how haters are easier to get as compared to getting
Yes,
people to love you. It's very easy to get people to hate you, and haters still
exactly.
buy. Like for example, the amount of
That's
hate wide.
that's the
Yeah,
thing people don't realize, that they react to hate,
exactly,
right? You need to
exactly.
channelize that hate energy and use it to your advantage. You just need to know how to do it, right? Most people
Yeah,
will just react, start abusing things. Don't do that, right? Stay
yeah,
calm. That's rule number one. Rule number two is follow rule number one. That's it, right?
yeah,
Stay calm
exactly.
and then use that hatred, let it penetrate deeper, right? And if you see any people, just reach out to them and tell them, hey, do you see value in this, right? If not, let's get on
Yeah,
a call, right?
exactly,
if if
exactly.
if that hate is turning into positivity, that's your job to do it in the right way. And when
Very
people
true.
see there's PR and all of those activities, and when the company is still growing, the company is like, for example, we've grown to almost 20 plus team members now, right? So
Right.
this is something that people see. Look, those 20 people are not dumb to be working for this company, right?
Yeah.
There are thousands of these customers who are buying, they're not dumb, right? And then on top of that, there are all of these companies coming in, they're not dumb either, right? That means the problem is not over here. The problem is over here because this guy seems to be a small competitor who's trying to sell me all the time.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
not
Very
today,
true.
people realize this after a month, right? Because sometimes in the heat of momentum, you kind of like go with that momentum and flow. But after a month, when you start realizing and you're like, okay, this is not the case, right? That's when people will
Yeah.
start tuning into your fan, because they will see how you handled the situation very well and how you kept on going, how you kept on providing value without being bothered. And trust me, that is a best form of way to get word of mouth out there. So always appreciate your haters, because trust me, they spread the word for you that even your most loved customers will at times not do. So that's one of the
Yeah. And
biggest
even with
reasons.
that, yeah, and even with that, if you have a certain customer of yours who hates you, or even if he's not a customer, because most of the time these haters are not customers at the first place, and you have this like guy who loves the company, and they meet and they start debating and fighting and whatnot, you are still winning as a brand. Like that's a victory for you. That's a net positive for you, not a net negative. So yeah, very well put. Put that. All right, let's just cover some very good questions which we got out there, and then let's wrap it up. So Karan
Sure.
asks that. When you track your conversions from all the different sources, how much has Twitter contributed to the growth overall, and an
Yeah,
approx
so
percentage?
yeah, so as per the Google Analytics sales that I track on, it's approximately
Mhm.
about like 9% of the conversions, which I feel is fantastic because it's 100%
Nice.
organic.
It's pretty good. Wow, that's huge. That's huge. That's not first. That's huge. Yeah. I'm gonna ask that if you're building your personal brand on Twitter and you are just one person running the whole show, how do you invest the time and efforts at the right platform at the right place, and you're not laying out yourself too thin and like too narrow and too broad?
What I would recommend you is start hiring interns. That's
Right.
something that people who are running a single man show that is doing personal branding, they don't realize that you cannot do everything by yourself. It's not possible to sit down, work on contents all the time, and at the same time manage customers and all of those things as well, right? So in order to for that to be like really analyzed, you need to start hiring interns. So my recommendation is just go to internshala.com, make a post over there. You'll probably receive about 300 to 500 applications in the marketing field in a matter of just 2 days, right? Run an assessment test using interview, which is on PitchGround. And then once they pass the interview, and if they score like about 80-90% in your assessment test, get them on a call, right? For about 5 to
Mhm.
10,000 rupees per month, INR, which is about like 75 to like $150 per month approximately. You can get interns for about 3 months, right? I'm talking about per month pricing, right?
Yeah.
Per month salary.
Yeah.
So that's about what, like 15 to 30,000 that you're investing, and for 3 months you can push a crazy amount of contents that you can just let
Yeah.
one individual handle that particular platform. So you can have one person for just Twitter, you can have one person for just Instagram. That is one of the best ways for you to really grow. Use the interns, and if the growth is happening, you can always do some revenue share. That will really pump them up basically. So that's how you need to really
Yeah,
run the
and
show if you're running alone.
right. And when you start putting yourself out there as a brand, as a personal brand, as someone who's trying to do something, one of the best thing that happens, and I think it's pretty sure, pretty same condition for you as well, is that talent comes to you. Like, people reach out to you, they want to work for you, they want to learn from you, and as a result of that, like the whole process just becomes far more demystified, right? So like, I've even though I don't endorse free work, I have people like reaching out sometimes, like, that, hey, I just want to work for you for free, right? Like, that happens with so many people. And if you can really deliver value and also like pay them at least minimum wage, it's like great, man. It's a win-win situation. You are always winning
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
that's
right?
it. Yeah, definitely,
Yep.
definitely. Like I said, we have so many people reaching out to me all the time that they want to start their career with in SaaS,
Yeah.
because generally in India you don't get too much of an opportunity to get somewhere in SaaS, especially. So again, just start with interns. Don't just do everything by yourself. Trust me, that is one mistake that I did at a very initial stage of my career, is try to do everything by myself, thinking I'm going to save money, but I didn't realize that my time is more valuable than trying to save money, right?
Yeah.
It's like putting up your money in a saving account versus FD versus investing, right?
Exactly.
It's the same concept, that if you think you're trying to save money, you're not. You're actually not valuing your own time by doing that, right?
Exactly.
So let start building up a team. Even if you're running solo game, it's completely okay, right? Gary Vee does that. He's running a
Yeah.
if you people think he's running a single show, but he's not. He's got a whole freaking giant team behind it, working on all the
Very
content,
true.
editing, strategy. All Gary Vee is doing is putting up his face and working on this content, and giving those content to his team for the rest of the strategy. So that's what you need to doing. Have one person who will do all the research and do all the stuff on one platform, and for the second platform will be a completely different person, and you will see some great growth. And even after 3 months, if you cannot afford that person to hire full time, just get another intern after that, right? You can
Very true.
run a game on internship, and trust me, the young kids that are coming in who are like 17, 18, they have crazy energy, like
Oh
they have
yeah.
insane energy, right? They know more about Instagram than you and I do, right? So
That's very true. Yeah.
right, because they are now being trained right from their birth how to use Instagram, how to go and like I have seen my niece and nephews who are like 2 years, 1.5 years, they know how to type on YouTube today and search for a video, and I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing when I was that young, right? So the
Yeah.
kids, the generation that are coming in are a lot more smarter, a lot more energetic. Invest
Mm.
in them, invest
Yeah,
and
we
use
are
that energy.
we are
That's
entering the world of
important.
social capital now. Social capital is going to be a very important currency, anyways, and that's how world's going to operate going forward. And this question is the last question for today, and also something that I wanted to ask, but it slipped out of my mind. Right? Giveaways. You utilizing giveaways, freebies, lead magnets, etc. And more particularly, my question is with regards to giveaways, because you guys have done it consistently and you've done it well, right? But this is a very controversial thing. I have noticed so many people do giveaways, and that in turn leads to downfall in engagement rather than increasing. But you guys have done it always, almost you've done it very well. What's the secret?
I would say it really depends upon your giveaway, to be very honest
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
Second is we clearly mention our terms, right? That look, if you're
Yeah.
trying to use an account with one follower, fake account, right? We'll just discard you at that point. Like even if you spend the time investing
Right.
into fake accounts, it's not going to get calculated,
Yeah. Just a
and
minute.
that's something that we do manually at the very end. We take about a week plus to
Mhm.
analyze all of the results, and on the basis of that then we decide who the winner is, and if there are any fake entries or anything, we check them out. That reduces their point. So then the ultimate winner is the one who has actually put in the effort. So you have to put in. Giveaways are not like something where it will magically sort of generate things for you. Everywhere, whatever you do, there will be some part of it where you have to do manually. You have to handle
Got it.
things manually. So in this case
Got it.
as well, when you're running those giveaways, one of the things that you need to be very smart about giveaways is what exactly will be your goal with those giveaways, right? Do you want to retweet, which creates a different effect, or you want mentions, which creates a different effect, right?
Yeah.
Which is retweeting you.
Yeah.
So you need to be very creative. And what we have
Yeah.
seen is that whenever we mention people to mention us in the tweet rather than just retweeting, we have seen the engagements going a lot higher at that point of
Got
stage.
it.
So
Right.
that's something that's very important. So you have to put in a bit of manual work, but it works out very well throughout. And ultimately, In the end, what would matter is not again the number of engagement, is the number of people signing up in the end, because email
Mhm.
should be the end goal for any company to collect, where email is the money.
Right. But here's the thing, right? Like the question is not about the technicalities of the giveaway itself. It's more about whether it's like good enough to incentivize users to follow you. Like for example, will they stick? Like retention is the main problem. Like for example, you can incentivize someone to follow you and they can come with that purpose, but they're not coming to consume your content at the first place, right? So will they stick around? I think that's the underlying issue with giveaways. Like what do you
If
think
you're
about this?
providing value to people, people will
Hmm.
stick around, right? People will
Right.
follow you because they expect to learn something from you, or they
Right.
expect something from you, right? So, for example, anyone
Hmm.
who's following me, right? They're following me not because I'm some crazy badass person, right? Is because
Hmm.
I constantly keep on sharing value, and I constantly
Yeah.
focus on helping out people, right? Regardless of how
Mhm.
big or small they are. So that's what I do, and that's one of the reasons why people follow me. But then there are people who don't like me either, and I don't care because I am not here selling ice creams, right? So I'm here to
Yeah.
provide value to people. People who want to take advantage of their value from me, right?
Mhm.
They take it and just reach out to me. It's as simple as that. And people who doesn't want to do that, that's up to them, right? So that's why I always said that don't chase followers. People will follow you if you're genuinely providing value, and you need to just focus on that. You do not need to focus on anything else. People just need to stop being obsessed about followers. The day they stop being obsessed, and the day they just focus on start putting out great contents, helping people to grow, you will see your growth will happen evidently. It's like saying, don't chase money, chase passion, right? Because then money will chase you automatically. Same thing
Very true.
is with social media. Don't chase followers, right? People are obsessed about followers. I just don't understand why. Because ultimately, if they don't buy anything from you, what's the point? We all remember, I think 2 years ago, an article went viral where a model had about 2 million followers. And the moment she launched her product, she only got 12 sales. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very common now,
Followers,
especially
12 sales. And
yeah,
after
yeah,
that, like, she had to discard, and the company was furious because the company invested so much money into that particular influencer in terms of
right.
branding, creating the hype and everything, only to lead to 12 sales, right? Even people today with more than with like 500 followers can drive more than 12 sales today. So what's the point
I
of
know.
having those 2 million followers, right? It's That's why I keep saying that people need to stop being obsessed about having followers and start being obsessed about providing value. People will join your journey. I started as a single person about 13 years ago. That's all, right? And now I've connected that throughout with so many thousands of people worldwide, that people recognize me, and people who know me, they know the value that I provide to them. And that's all matters to me. And this is a long-term journey, right? This is not a
Very
short-term
true.
journey. You're in the journey for a long term, not short term. So just keep on focusing on that, right? Trust me, your sales will automatically scale up.
Got it. And one of my, I was recently talking to the senior executive at Paytm Insiders, and lately during this particular lockdown itself, they have been doing a lot of events online. A lot of ticket selling is going on, right? And he mentioned a very good thing that people with 5 million followers are barely getting 1% conversion rate. 1% conversion
Exactly.
rate, and people with 1,000 followers are getting 600 ticket sales. So it's about
Exactly my point.
impression versus conversion, people. Impression
Exactly
to
my
conversion
point.
ratio. Yeah.
Exactly my
Yeah.
point. That's why I said that don't be obsessed. And micro influencers today plays a lot more major impact than the macro influencers, because again, with micro influencers, right, you connect people on a much more deeper level,
Very
and a
true.
much more personal level, versus macro influencers where people just like are obsessed about followers and can do anything for followers. Like, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
providing value, I'm just talking about showing numbers, right? So, and such people, trust me, will never focus on giving you value. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah. And I think the underlying another interesting reason for this is the compounding effect. Like when you're working with a micro influencer, the compounding effect over the years is huge as compared to working with a one-off big influencer, right? The
No,
relationships compound,
100%.
you get to each other better, and that's a huge upside as well. Uh,
Yeah, because
but
the
yeah, I
people
think
who
this
connect
was
yeah, because the people who connect with you, who, let's say that you do a live session with someone on Instagram, the people who see you and connect with you at that point of stage, they connect with you on a much more deeper level at the same time, because they
Exactly.
generally would reach out to you. And that's the kind of
Yeah.
people you want to connect with, because if you can help them grow their business, right, they'll buy anything from you. It doesn't matter at that point of stage. So that is something that I
Yeah. Very
always say,
true.
like this: obsessed, be obsessed with your customers, be obsessed about providing value. And at the same time, when you once you do that, like, your sales is going to be eminent. I think one book people should always read is Delivering Happiness. uh,
Oh yeah.
great great book. You'll learn about the value of customers, and what it means to be obsessed with your customers and obsessed about providing value there. And again, definitely, it's not possible to make 100% people happy either, right? But even if you achieve about like good 95%, I think you are on a great track to build either a great brand, or you are on the track to be a great influencer down the road.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Udit. I mean, this was so awesome. I think complete, notes out, pens out session. And I think we're gonna have a very tough time trying to summarize this and prepare a post which conveys every single thing that we discussed, because there was just so much information jam packed into this, and I don't think anyone could have done it better apart from you. This is my own personal thing, my own personal curiosity. I want to end up with the same rapid fire which you have at Nathan's podcast, and kind of like just get to know the 2017 Udit versus like 2021 Udit and how things have changed. So yeah, I
Sure.
mean, yeah. So the first question I think is, what's the favorite book that you have read like recently? What's your favorite book so far for building a
My
business?
favorite my favorite book will always remain Predictable Revenue. That book has changed my life in so many different ways.
Right, Aaron Ross.
Uh, that book is a no-brainer, regardless of any industry you are in. That's
Hmm.
one book everyone should invest in. Buy, get a audiobook if you cannot get a book. That book is a
Right.
must read.
Have you read the second part, Impossible to Inevitable, the one where they also have SaaStr CEO, Jason Lemkin?
No,
Like,
no,
there's
no,
a second part.
I
Yeah,
haven't read
check
that.
that out as well. It's like the second continuation to
It's in
Predictable
my
Revenue.
wish list right now.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. What's the favorite tool that you use to build your own business?
There are too many of them. Anything specific? Because I use a lot of tools for different reasons. Like being at pitch ground, like my day
I,
starts with tools and and then end with tools.
yeah. Okay, what's one tool that you personally use for your own personal productivity stack? Let's just take that for example.
So for my own productivity, I would say I use Google Calendar a lot. Like my everything
Google
is
Cal.
planned out. Yeah, everything is planned out in Google Calendar. Even my activities are planned out on Google Calendar. Whatever I want to do, it's planned out on Google Calendar, and then I set up like notifications and everything. So I don't use like a typical like a CRM for that, or a productivity tool for
Yeah, yeah,
that, or a project management tool for that. I just stick with Google Calendar because all my meetings are organized in Google Calendar as well. So it just helps me
exactly.
to align things at what time I want to take a break and everything. So I completely depend myself, my own productivity on Google Calendar 100%.
Got it. Got it. Is there any CEO or founder that you are following and you like, inspired to be like?
Uh, no one in particular, to be very honest with you. Like no one
Mm-hmm.
very specific anymore.
Right.
Because from so many people I used to follow, the way they started doing things and the way they're doing things now has completely
I
changed
understand
completely.
that. Yeah.
So for me,
So much related to
I'm
that.
like, yeah. So I'm kind of like in a career mode right now, that
Mm-hmm.
nothing and no one specifically inspires me now, because what matters to me is like growing and providing value to my own team, and because they look up
Mm-hmm.
to me and they rely on me for their livelihood. So that's what
Right.
matters to me at the very most. So no one in particular today. I say like I desperately wait and watch them. There was one person,
Right.
Steve Jobs, that I used to adore.
Yeah.
I wish he was still there, and I would have continued following him. But sadly, he's not around with us.
Okay, let me frame it this way. What's one upcoming founder that you want all of us to watch out for, apart from you, like obviously? Any
Uh,
young founder, one of your SaaS companies, that's one of the SaaS companies on pitch ground, which you are really like, you think like that team is gonna do crazy stuff.
uh, some I would say are very passionate about it, but at
Yeah.
a very early stage. But they're still
Yeah.
very passionate, can make
Yeah.
it. Some I feel has a potential. So, for example,
Right.
if you look at Elijah from Virus Die, He is
Yeah.
obsessed about security and he wants to change the world, and SaaS companies with a better security, with a completely different sort of a passion,
Mm-hmm.
versus some of the founders. Like for example, I speak with Miho Learn founder all the time,
Mm-hmm.
since the last 7 8 days. Those guys are crazy about building up a great product. We speak with them very very often. And then there are also founders like PageMaker founders recently, Kushal and Seth. They're obsessed about conversion optimization and helping. So it's very hard
Right.
at this stage to say who, because there's also this veterinary founder, Michael, who is from Italy. He's obsessed about his work, right? There are so many good
Mm-hmm.
founders out there that it will be very hard to pick one, because everyone loves what they're doing, everyone is passionate about what they're doing, and the ones who are
Yeah.
not passionate, they won't survive, because
Yeah.
if you don't consider your product as your baby, and at the same time you don't want to grow it, then it will be very hard for you to grow.
I think obsession with your problem is what's the underlying message out here for everyone.
Sure,
Be
definitely
obsessed
be
with your problem.
obsessed about
Yeah.
what you do. Just
Yeah.
don't wake up and think, I gotta work, right? Have a different
Yeah.
attitude. Damn, I need to work again, right? So just have that. It's the same
True.
words but different expressions, right? So just have that
Yeah.
positivity, and I think that's what matters. So that's what I think. Like some of these founders that I connected to has, and I think they has a huge potential to really turn things around and turn something big down the road.
Got it. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Now 8 hours.
Still four. I
It,
was expecting. I was so much expecting four to come out. Like,
No, 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 no.
yeah, but
So
yeah,
I,
eight
I've
hours.
just
That's
turned
good. That's
30.
good.
I just turned 30 last year. So I need to be more
Right.
careful about my health at this point of stage. So for me, at this point of
Yeah.
stage, experience comes in a lot more. So that's why I started investing into young energy a lot more. We are
Hmm.
generally hiring people who are like 17, 18. We don't care whether they have experience or not, but we do care of how passionate they are, right? And those are
Correct.
kind of people that we are hiring in at the moment. So that's how we are kind of like executing. So for me, like sleeping 8 hours is so very important, because I cannot carry on with like the 4 hour sleeps forever. So until like last year, I
Gotcha.
was I was doing the 4 hour sleep only, but no longer. But I still work for approximately a good 14 hours a day.
Makes sense. And last question is, what would you suggest to your 20-year-old self?
Ah, 20-year
10 years
old
back.
self, I would say, go ahead, explore, make mistakes, and learn from other people's mistake, because life is too short to just keep making mistakes yourself, right? So commit
Yep.
mistakes, but also learn from other people's mistake. And your 20s should always be about experimenting to understand what you really enjoy. So be explosive, right? And don't try to chase money. You will have your whole life to make money. So don't be obsessed about making millions of dollars, because that is the age for you to learn. That's the age
Yeah.
for you to network and grow, and build a foundation of your career, right? And post 30, once you reach 30, you need to know exactly what you want to do in life, right? Because you get that
Way
10
true.
years
Way true.
to do whatever you want, explore, fail, it doesn't matter. 30, you need to know what you're doing. You need to have a great foundation until then. Get all your experience in of over a decade. That point of stage, you will eminently start seeing the real growth from 30 to 40. And then I think once I turn 40, I think I'll be purely investing into like young blood at that point of stage. So this 10 years for me is all about laying down the bricks and start building up each floors for the next
Mhm.
1 decade. And then hopefully by the time I turn 40, which is like next 10 years, you might see Lil Sass IPO coming out, because that's one of the
Wow.
dreams and that's one of the goals, right?
Yep.
To be out there in next 1 decade to launch the IPO. So this year, this next decade is all about that. So we are on the part to building all those things up. So hopefully our goals and whatever revenue that we want to achieve, and the internal goals that we are working on that. So let's just hope. Rest is on luck and God. Our job is to just keep working.
Yep. Thank you so much, Udit. I'm rooting for the IPO. Definitely gonna invest. And I hope that you guys get there. And I'm pretty confident that you will. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for coming here, giving an hour of your time, and let's do this soon.
Okay, thank you so much for having me over here, Rahul. It was absolute pleasure speaking
Yep.
with you.